Hey everybody, welcome to the Kim and Kalee Show. I'm Kalee.
I'm Kim.
And today we have on someone really special to us. It's a really big inspiration. Actually, she's a really tiny inspiration. She has a really amazing weight loss story, but we'll get to that in just a second. But we like to kick off each episode with a fun little question. So what's your favorite thing to do on a Saturday?
Well, it doesn't happen all the time, but my favorite thing to do on a Saturday is a wine festival
Oh
in
my
town.
gosh, yes.
I miss them so much.
Oh, I cannot wait until we get to go to another one.
I know. I love doing those on Saturdays. If we don't have one going on, then I just like being lazy normally,
Yeah.
Just,
I was going to say, I like sitting on the couch with the dog
Yeah.
and binge watching something.
I like snuggling up with Izzy. So
Yeah.
there you go. That's what you would do too.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
kind of a good TV show if I can't go to a wine festival. Yeah. But today, we'll jump right into the episode. We are talking to Charlene from FBJFIT, and we wanted to talk to her in the middle of our Reset and Simplify Our Life, or Your Life series, because she is really a testament to everything that we're talking about: honoring your priorities, setting goals, making your goals into daily habits, and really following through and being successful.
Right. Making a life goal, and then setting small little goals in order to hit it.
Yeah.
And realizing that this isn't just a race, as a cliche goes.
Yeah.
This is a marathon.
Yeah.
So she lost 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And has been able to maintain it through using her goals and just watching it every day,
Like just having her good habits. She's also been featured in Good Housekeeping. She's been all over, just sharing her story and how she's been able to do it. And we're so excited to be able to share some of her fun but kind of firm fitness tips today. So let's just jump right into the interview.
Okay.
All right, everybody, we are so excited to have one of our friends and inspirations to us in our health and fitness. We have Charlene on today. We're really excited. You kind of heard her story on our intro, but we wanted just to jump in and say thank you so much for hopping on our podcast today.
Oh, I'm super excited. It's great to see you guys.
It's good to see you too.
So good to see you. We're excited to hear about all your tips and advice on how you lost all that weight and how you stay motivated. And so we're looking forward to today's chat with you.
Me too.
Yay. So let's just kind of start off about your life before your weight loss. What was your relationship with food and exercise like?
Well, I think that my journey resonates with a lot of people because it's a very common story. I think I was pretty active, as a young adult, and then just the more and more responsibilities that kind of heaped on, the less and less I actually did. Till like one by one, I kind of look back now and think I was really a spectator in my own life. Everything I did was I watched a movie, watched TV, watched a sporting event, went to a play, and I started to realize that I wasn't really actually participating in things myself anymore. Yeah. And so I think that was and I also think food kind of became entertainment. You got together with a girlfriend, you guys went out for drinks or apps, or you go out to eat, and that became like what you did. So that I think as I aged, a little bit less of what I used to do, maybe when I would play racquetball with a friend on the weekend, or you'd go for a bike ride, or you did certain things. Little by little, those things kind of dropped off and kind of got replaced with a little bit more, like I call it, the spectator lifestyle.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. I know I'm guilty of our main event is going to be a nice steak dinner. So
right. Well, especially now,
that's for real. Been cooped up in the house a little bit too long.
A little bit too much. It's like you've cooked all kinds of things now.
Yeah.
Enjoy that comfort food right now.
Yeah.
But it's like you do have to take like a specific mindset or make a point, because it's so easy, especially with friends who are, let's go out and eat, and that's their form of entertainment. So you have to
really
make that. Yeah,
you have to retrain the people in your life with that is really true, because it's food is love to a lot of people. Food is connection, and that's that just tends to be when people want to get together with you, it is usually around food or drinking, and so that's a tricky thing to do. Is to try to like reshape how you want your lifestyle to be.
Right.
And that took a while.
Yeah. So I know you've talked about like, just how hard it is, and having to kind of like teach your family and your friends, like, all right, this is my new way. This is how I'm, going to live. This is how we're going to connect. Is
Right.
that kind of what was different about this time that you wanted to lose weight? Because I know before you mentioned your thing with Oreos, which I can so relate to. Like, you
The
love,
crack of the cookie world. Yes, yes.
yeah. So how, like, what made this different than like the time of like, well, I'm just going to pick up those Oreos again?
I think for me, because I tell, my story now is that I had tried, I think, everything from Atkins to Weight Watchers and everything in between. And I really had. And I had some success and then kind of would always go back to eventually my previous lifestyle. And then what had happened was I went to a day spa. This is my kind of aha moment. And the one size fits all robe didn't fit me. And I had to go back to the desk. And the receptionist was really rude to me and like just kept making me say it over and over again that the robe didn't fit. And I just remember going back to the changing room and just having this moment of like fighting back tears. And what was supposed to be this fun day of beauty for myself, I mean, the day was just kind of ruined. And I just remember having this really, it all kind of clicked at that moment that I just never wanted to feel like that again, that I kind of had lost like who I was or who I knew myself to be. And it had gotten beyond the point of I needed to lose a few pounds to needing to lose half myself. And so I think when I started my journey, from that moment forward, I just kept telling myself, and this time I mean it. And because I had tried so many diets and exercise routines in the past over the years, it really did take a little bit of extra training to the people in my life to know that this time, and this time I meant it. And I wasn't going to split the blooming onion, if we went out for an appetizer. I mean, I didn't want to go out for ice cream, or if I did go with you, I'm not getting that, or just how I would, my workouts kind of, I call them not negotiable. Like people will steal your day if you let them, and I tried to really say like, no, I'll do that after I do that. This is what I need to do for myself. So I think that was kind of the driving force. I just kept channeling how I felt in that moment, and realized how much different I wanted this time to be.
Yeah, right. I think so many people can relate to that too. Just like, because I know even if you have that moment, like you might have a family member or a friend just be like, oh, well, that's really sweet. Like, that's really cute. Like that you think you're going to do that. So the fact that, like you kept on, I know that's going to inspire so many people.
Right.
It's so hard after that moment, a week later, or
Well,
a couple days later.
I always say what's really tricky about that is I always say saboteurs are everywhere, and even the people closest to you will surprise you. Yes. I say, you lose 5 pounds and people are very supportive, like, that's great, you look good, when I really started to really show discipline and really like, no, I can't do that right now, or I'm not having that Sunday with you, and you can certainly do what you want to do, but, I have to, stick to what I'm doing. And you did get that, come on, just this once, you're no fun anymore, it's all genetic, you're getting older, like this is just how it's got to be, kind of mentality. And that was surprising. That would you would think that you would have more people kind of cheering you on than you do. And I found the more serious I became with it, the less cheerleaders I actually had. I always say not everyone on your boat is rowing.
No. Well, sometimes they don't want to row the boat. Haven't you found that to be true? Like they're happy having their Sunday. They haven't hit that aha moment yet. So they want you to be in the same boat with them.
Like enable them a little bit.
Yeah, and I think sometimes like people want you to I think by showing, I'm 55 years old and I've had 3 kids, and the fact that I could do it like kind of shows like that you can do it. Yes. And I think some people like try to just I resign themselves to, like I said, you just you're getting older, or I've had kids, it's not going to be the same. And so like I definitely think that they don't, maybe there's a part of them that subconsciously don't really want you to be successful with it, but you kind of, that's why I said you have to really, decide you're captain of your ship, and where you want to steer that ship is kind of up to you. It has to be.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's just something that we all have to like dig deep in and figure out. So it's awesome that you've been able to do it, and hoping this will inspire other people to do it too. Yeah. So with your goals, when you first got started, you mentioned like you wanted to lose like half of yourself. Like that was the amount of weight that you wanted to lose. Like, was that your overall goal, or did you say like, okay, I'm going to eat healthy today, or it's going to be this week, or did you break it down to pounds? What did that look like?
I broke it down to 5-pound increments because 100 pounds just seemed overwhelming. And I thought that would just make me feel like it was too big of a mountain to climb. So I tried to set 5 to 10 pound mini goals. And I was really diligent about not getting, I call it a case of the comfortables, because I had lost weight before, and then like you get comfortable and then it kind of slides back. And so now, even though I've kept the weight off for a very long time, I'm always mindful that I'm a few decisions away from disaster. like now I give myself 3 pounds of wiggle room, so that if I'm in my range and I want to have, an extra treat here and there that I have planned for, that I like, that not just kind of like let the train leave the station, so to speak, but like that I know that that's what I'm doing. Then I can certainly do that. And when I start to creep out of range, okay, we're in the middle of a quarantine, there's been a lot more sedentary, even I'm still doing my workouts, but maybe you're not doing all that activity in between your workouts, or you are, baking a little bit more, that sort of thing. And, I'm trying to be mindful of like, where I am in the process.
Right.
So that's, I tried also not to invest in a lot of clothes, and I tried not to keep my heavier clothes. Sometimes I wish I had kept more of my like big pants, so I could do like the thing where you stand, in the old pants. But I tried to like say, I don't want to have fat clothes. I don't want to have clothes that I'm going to put back on. So I would buy like one pair of black pants, a pair of jeans, and I would say, I'm not staying at this size long. I don't need to get comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about like making making it easy to follow with good habits and making it harder to slide back into old ones.
Yeah, it's really easy to slide back into old ones if you keep that pair of big pants, just in case. There should not
just in case.
Just in case. Yeah, so I like that. So now that you've, even in your process of losing it, how did you track your progress? Like, did you weigh every day? Did you measure every day? Did you, okay, I worked out?
I know that there's like this kind of philosophy about not weighing yourself every day, and that you shouldn't be defined by the numbers on the scale. And I totally get that.
Right.
But for me, I had totally lost track of where I was in my journey. Like when I hit my highest weight and was, I didn't think it was 100 pounds I needed to lose. So I had a little bit of dysmorphia as to where I was. So, and it was kind of like that when I lost the weight too. Like people would be like, oh my God, you look so fit. And I'd just be like, no, I really still need to lose a few, or, like it was hard to have a sense of, where you were in the, so I do weigh myself every day. I still weigh myself every day. What I don't do is let it define my day. I mean, I'm like, if I get on and I'm a few pounds up, I can say to myself, well, did you have a lot of sodium yesterday? Or, was it just, you didn't drink enough water? Or, or maybe you did have, 1 or 2 treats more than you had, budgeted for, I guess would be the way to put it. And I just try to keep so that I know that I'm in my range, and I'm at the point now where I definitely know what it's going to say before I even get on the scale. I know what I've done and what I haven't done now. It's been long enough, but I still use that to kind of keep it honest, just to keep a range of, I give myself 3 pounds, 4 pounds, just to play. And when I'm in a range, that's great. Then the weekend can come and maybe I'll have that glass of fit fine wine, or maybe I will have, some extra snacks here and there that I plan for. Right. I mean, there are some foods I just don't have anymore, but I do try to tell people, what you do on the way down is different from what you do when you're there. Right. And I always, like, everyone loves to say, oh, everything in moderation. And I always say, well, moderation is, for maintenance, not for losing weight. And, so like, I was probably not very moderate when I was trying to lose 100 pounds. I mean, but now that I have, now I can certainly have more, more here and there treats than I would have when I was trying to lose weight. Otherwise, you could be good all week, and then on the weekend say, "Oh, I deserve this," which I hate. That drives me crazy. Don't you deserve to be healthy or deserve to feel good about yourself too? Like that should play into the equation. But if you're good all week and then you have that one, maybe I have a little Chinese food on Friday, maybe I have a glass of wine or 2 on Saturday, and then a dessert on Sunday, and then on Monday I'm right back to where I was the previous week. So when you're trying to lose, no wonder people would get discouraged by that. And a lot of times when you're eating not your typical things, the scale goes up even more than what you actually gained, because you are retaining water now, because it's more, it tends to be more sodium rich, carbohydrate kind of foods,
Yeah, totally. I think it's awesome because, like, you mentioned the scale, and like, I would not weigh myself forever. Like it just made me nervous. I didn't want, and I mean, I was the person that let it bother their whole day. And then by the end of the day, like if I was up 3 pounds, I'd be like, oh, just screw it. I'm going to eat this cupcake because I worked this hard. And then it's just like that cycle. So I think like once I started weighing every day, it kind of took that power away because it was like, all right, well, you get the law of averages.
Yeah.
Right. And you kind of need to know that about yourself. If you know that's going to set you up for disaster, if you're going to get discouraged every time you go, and there's plenty of times you could feel like, I don't know why I bother, nothing I do works. I mean, I felt like that. I felt like I had tried so many things and everything just didn't seem to work for me. And what was funny was when I was trying to lose weight, I felt like people around me at that time, I kind of felt like, geez, everybody else can go out and eat buffalo wings. Everyone else can go do this, it only seemed like me that was getting really fat,
Yeah.
and now that I've lost weight and I look around, I'm kind of like, well, no, that's not really true. It catches up with them, I mean, it's not something that, I think people I've been thin enough now that people maybe never knew when I was heavy. And I think that when you hear me order in a restaurant, some people be like, oh, you don't have to do that, or you can get whatever you want. And I always reply, you know how I can eat whatever I want? Because they never eat whatever I want.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Yeah. It makes such a difference. And I just feel like, if you don't focus on it, then like that's when like the creep happens and you get into the comfortables. And so,
And I think that's why it's important. I've heard the same thing, and I used to be of the same nature. Don't weigh every day because it can put you in a mindset. But I also use that as an excuse. Well, people say not to weigh every day because, that's going to affect my mindset. But if you use weighing every day as a tool, like if you can effectively use it as a tool instead of it affecting your mind, then it really does help. Because I know when I was at my heaviest, because people would say, use your clothing. Well, there's too much spandex in blue jeans now.
Right, yes. Pretty forgiving.
Yeah. So I could wear the same pair of blue jeans 10 pounds heavier than I needed to be. So when I stepped on the scale, because I'm like, oh, I'm still in my size, whatever, and I won't mention sizes because I don't want anybody to feel like they have to compare, but I'm still in my same size. Stepped on the scale and I'm like, holy moly, I'm 10 pounds heavier than I thought I was. Yeah. So I think weighing every day is, as long as people can use it as a tool and not get depressed over it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to know if you're working out as, like I do an awful lot of weight training, and eventually like that ends up putting on, God willing, if you're doing it right, you're putting on muscle mass. And so like you have to understand, like, maybe at some point it is not just the number on the scale, but you're building, lean muscle mass, and that's important, and that might affect the scale too. Right. So I try to I chart it. So I'm able to keep track of, where I am and what affects it and what doesn't. Like I always joke, I think every time it's a full moon, like it is right now, I always feel like I'm not 2 pounds. Now, I don't know why that is, but it is,
Maybe that's why I'm up 2 pounds.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, I do love the measuring tape too, because like you said, if you lift weights, your scale is sometimes going to be heavier than what you think.
Right.
So I'll dig out that tape measure and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. My place that I measure that I know I've gained weight is my waist.
Yeah, mine's my hips.
And so anyway.
And once in a while, it's good to get, when I used to work out with a trainer, she did the body fat analysis. That was always really a good tool to use, occasionally also, just to know where you are, body fat wise, because it's important. Like, I think there's a temptation for people who are trying to lose weight to starve themselves. And that's like a really tough mindset to get out of.
Yeah.
You need to, your body needs things, and you're not doing yourself any favors by not eating.
Yeah. And there's no way that you can maintain it. Like, I mean, if you're cutting out a whole food group or food groups, and like, we were reading about a certain celebrity, she had lost, I think 100 pounds. And we were like, well, let's just see how she did it. She was eating cocoa, kale, strawberries, and salmon, and that was it. And I'm like, well, anybody would like that's, you can't do that forever. Like, don't even mention wolf, but you couldn't do that forever.
No, and I guess I feel, I've kept it off enough now that I look around, and when people start, whatever latest trend is coming around, everybody's like really on board with it, and they love to tell me like, oh, well, I know that like work, and I'm like, well, yeah, it may work. A lot of things work. But, what's going to work long term? I feel very comfortable that I've found what works for me. And I guess sometimes that makes me a little resistant to changing things. Like I have constantly evolved what I do. Right. There are sometimes I'm like, latest thing comes out and I'm kind of like, well, this works for me right now. And so I kind of want, I mean, while I read up on other things, whether it's intermittent fasting or whatever the latest thing is, I try to like be mindful of it, but also see like, well, geez, you've had success with how you handle yourself. So I don't, kept it off long enough now that I feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, you have to trust yourself and know what works for you. And even like what will work for me doesn't work for mom. Like, so we all have to find what works.
That's really important too, because I think a lot of people just try to, follow what you said, what the celebrities are doing or what they, and you have to find what you like. For me, I know that there are certain foods I could give up and I don't care that I don't eat those anymore. Like I really don't have pasta, almost never. Right. And if I do, maybe it's a quinoa pasta or brown rice pasta. Like, but even then, I would tend to do zucchini noodles or or something else. Because to me, a half a cup of pasta is just that is a gateway to a big bowl of pasta. So, but there are some things that if I gave up, I would be miserable. And like for me, it was like I've tried a million different things in my coffee, but I like a little bit of light cream in my coffee. Now I have gone way down in the amount of cream I put in my coffee. But I would not be a nice person to be around if I didn't enjoy my coffee, So, so I know that that's something that I can, I really want to have that in my coffee, but I can do without the pasta. And you have to be aware of what you can live with and what you can't. And if you have to be somebody that eats bread, then you need to like figure out how you can make that work. For me, I'm fine not eating bread.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, like you have to figure out what works and then figure out like what matters most to you. Like, does the pasta matter or does, like your weight loss and your goal matter more?
Right.
And I think another thing that you mentioned, which we're including in our series, is just that consistency. Like you have to show up each day and, some days it might be Chinese food, but some days it's zoodles. Like, so having that consistent mindset that it's a lifetime, not a week or 6 months or a vacation.
It's not just a trend you're following. It is a healthy choice that you're making.
And I think sometimes people, like if you have one bad day, we all have bad days. There are plenty of times like people think that like, oh, you eat perfect. I'm like, oh my God, no. Like, no. I came up with a little expression, vodka leads to Oreos for a reason. Maybe that alcohol hits my bloodstream. I'm like, where are the cookies? We all have bad days. Are you gonna let that into a 3-day binge, or are you just going to be like, okay, kind of went off the rails there a little bit, tomorrow is more water, more working out, a little bit more, bringing it back in and being good to yourself. Like you can't, I think there's a tendency to really beat yourself up. Like, I failed again. I've tried everything. Nothing works. Like you wouldn't talk to a friend like that. You wouldn't try to support someone else like that. I don't know why it's okay, to beat yourself up.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it just makes such a difference. So we kind of hit it on it already, but just, is there anything else that people should know about like how your mindset changed around food and exercise? So maybe just a little bit about, did you used to do a lot of cardio and now you've switched to weights or, like anything like that?
Yeah, I think for sure, anytime I had tried to exercise when, in my previous, attempts to lose weight, I had always gone to cardio, always, whether it was walking or spiking or, an aerobics tape or an aerobics class or step class and certainly like, there's a benefit to cardiovascular exercise. But to me, weight training was like life-changing. That really, that was really a defining difference in my journey this time. And I really felt like that was what made the difference because the more muscle you build, the more calories you burn, even when you're doing nothing. And, and I genuinely enjoyed it. Like, I feel like I always tell myself, I'm working out to give myself the strength I need for the day. And that's what it feels like. I feel like when you feel strong, you feel like you can tackle more. And I do cardio too. I balance it out. So yeah, the weight training was really different. The other thing I think was real accountability when it came to food. And I always say I call them BLTs, bites, licks, tastes, and sips. And I said, and I think that there's a tendency not to count any of those. It's like, especially if you're a mom and, your kid doesn't finish their pizza and you take a bite of the pizza crust or, you take a sip of somebody's milkshake or a bite of their ice cream or, and I remember somebody explained like, yeah, it's like if you make a peanut butter sandwich and you lick the knife, like you can get an extra 90 calories that you're not counting. And I think that was a really, I really try to be mindful. I try not to eat standing up. I try not to eat at my desk when I'm not paying attention to what it is, I really try to like focus when I'm eating so that I'm aware of what it is that I'm doing. And I think that was a very big difference.
Yeah, I totally agree. The amount of like the BLTs that you mentioned, like, I feel like that's so huge because it's like somebody could just implement that, like from this whole episode, if that's all they took away, that would probably be at least, I would think 200 calories a day. So, I mean, that could end up being a pound every week.
Yeah, just think about when you're talking about the peanut butter, I was thinking about how many parents cut the crust off for the kids.
Right.
The crust doesn't count because you cut it off.
Right.
And I always think you're eating it. And I'm like,
I always think with kids especially, there's a tendency to finish for them sometimes. Or like, I remember one time I was at a restaurant and like when you see something happen and you think like you totally see yourself, I remember like I would go out to eat and like maybe I would get a salad and with grilled chicken or something and before, and then whoever my date was or my friends were would get whatever they would get, and then it would be like oh, I'll just take a bite, or like, but so I was at a restaurant and this woman, she got some kind of salad and the boyfriend had some cheesy pasta dish, and before she did anything, like before she even tried her own salad, she had a few forkfuls of his food, then ate her breadstick, and I'm sure she was kind of a bigger woman, and it wasn't judging, but I just remember thinking to myself, that's what I would do. Like, and then you would wonder, like, well, geez, why didn't I lose weight? I got the salad. So, that was so it was just kind of really being accountable. It might feel like you're not doing those things, but when you really start to focus on it, you can see when you do that.
Yeah, being accountable and mindful. I know some people I've talked to, I've seen it in myself in person. Though you mentioned sitting down to eat, which is, I think, is being mindful, accountable. I've seen somebody often be on the phone and devour an entire pizza and not realize that they ate the whole pizza because they were. And I'm like, how did you even enjoy that?
Yeah,
right.
So being mindful is
the mindless, repetitive, kind of thing. Or like if you're, working at your desk and you just eat, like, it's a stress thing sometimes. So I try to have like alternatives to that. Like if I know I'm really going to need like something to, munch on or crunch on, like I try to make sure it's a less calorie thing that I can have, I can crunch on, but I do try to be, when I'm eating, I try to set my times of what I'm eating and when I'm doing that. And then if I get starving or caught unprepared, I always keep a Luna bar in my pocketbook. So if I'm somewhere, I have something. I always try to have my meals like I know I eat about the same time, because when you get starving, that's when it's like, oh my God, and then you're just like
no willpower.
What do they do?
It just seems like there's no filling that hole. So I think that actually went to our next question that we were going to ask you, is like, what are your go-to tools for weight loss now? But having that Luna bar or things at your desk that you can eat. So do you have any other tips? What do you have in your toolbox?
I always say you have to have, a healthy alternative for like what it is that you want. Like, so for me, the Luna bar is I keep that in my pocketbook. I keep that, like nearby so that I have that if I'm somewhere, if I get stuck in traffic, or if I'm just somewhere and I'm hungry, I have one thing I can have. But I also try to have there are these nuts that I really love. That's a fancy nut blend mix that I get. And so I try to have those. So if the kids are having some kind of, nacho chips or whatever, and we're watching a family movie, like, okay, well, I can have those. Or I just try to always make sure that I have the Fit Vine wine has been a godsend to me, because I do like to have a cocktail or a glass of wine, and it's nice to be able to have something that's not going to send me off the rails. Now, flash forward before my 100 pounds, maybe it's a hot day and I'm somewhere and I would get a pina colada or a strawberry daiquiri, and it never really occurred to me, that's 500 or 600 calories easily. And that's versus a 90 or 100 calorie glass of wine that you could have. And so it's making those kinds of things. Now I can enjoy a glass of wine, but not be like, oh my God, a third of my calories for the day is gone on a frozen drink. And if you only had one, not unlikely to, you'd probably get that second one.
That inhibition gets a little bit lower and it's a little bit easier.
Right. So I try to have alternatives to things. Like I said, if the kid, maybe I do buy the quinoa pasta or the Trader Joe's. They have a cauliflower gnocchi that I really love, and it's the whole bag has 300 calories, and so but it tastes really good, and so it's nice to have those kinds of things that I just maybe it is one more step for myself, when I'm making dinner, but I enjoy it, and I'll make sure that I have something that I like as much. for myself so that I can, and sometimes the kids like those things too. So it just depends, whether I make it for everybody or just me.
Yeah. We did oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's so important. I hope everybody hears it, but you eat stuff that you enjoy, which
Right.
I know a lot of people, when they feel like you're trying to lose whatever, 100 pounds or 5 pounds, they feel like they have to give up everything that they enjoy.
Yeah.
So you still enjoy your food. You find alternate foods that are just as good to you.
Well, and I think what's really tricky, and I try to tell people this all the time, is like, I always remember when I was like kind of late to drinking coffee in life, and I was in law school, and it was like, I don't know, and I just started drinking coffee, but I remember feeling like I would never like coffee.
Right.
Like it was like never something that appealed to me. I didn't think it tasted good. Now I couldn't start my day without a cup of coffee. Like I love coffee. And I'm like, and now I make great coffee. And I always say, give yourself time to acclimate to new tastes.
Yeah.
I never thought when I was eating like, really heavy, saucy, cheesy foods or lots of pastas and breads. I mean, we had a lot of rice pilaf, things like that. I never thought I would be somebody that would like sushi or that would like, eating the foods I eat. And now I think that I've given myself enough time to concentrate on how it makes me feel, what it really tastes like, that I can look at like heavier foods now and like, wow, I don't think that like, I look at a heavy saucy dish now and I'm thinking like, I would feel like so sluggish and so puffy after I ate that. Like it doesn't have the same appeal to me that it used to.
Yeah.
So I always say, give yourself a chance to kind of develop new taste. A little kid never thinks they're not going to, that they would ever drink coffee. They're going to drink orange soda their whole life,
Right.
Exactly. So I was just going to say, before, like you were talking about cooking for your whole family, we actually were on another podcast that was really focused around like parenting. And one of the things that I didn't realize that I had taken on from mom was that she's always done like what you were saying, like she would have a healthier snack when we watch a movie, or she would make, like a boca burger versus a beef burger. And like, I just took that as normal. Like I remember when she bought full fat pudding, I was like, what is this? Like, this tastes horrible. This is so thick. And then I was like, oh, well, she had already trained me.
I had acclimated her taste buds to something healthier.
Yeah, you do. And I try to definitely, as far as the kids go, one of my most proud accomplishments is that they never drank soda. And so they just never acquired a taste for, and I always say that that's because when they were little and they wanted to try it, I gave them flat Diet Coke. And they were like, this tastes terrible. I'm like, well, then I guess you don't like soda. So that was kind of just something that you can kind of shape. But even like, they're teenage boys with a very different metabolism than I have.
Yeah.
So it's like, if they want to have ice cream, if they want to have, like whatever, they certainly are doing a lot more group sports and activities to burn that off. But I do try to like teach them what I have learned about, nutrition and making healthier choices and not, I always say it's not about never having a cupcake, but not about always having a cupcake, so you can kind of just, make
and doesn't it make that cupcake taste so much better when you don't always have it? Like the Chinese or the sushi even, like, I feel like we enjoy all that way more because you're used to eating, like your typical meals. Like I know for us, we get kind of in the habits, like, like we'll have like our, 10 things that we go to. And so having those treats, it just makes it easier in the habits, and then you get to enjoy more.
It's been so great to do your recipes too, because you guys opened me up to some different things, because you're right, you do get set in your own things. So it is nice to have different things to choose from and try different things, because not everything, like I say, not everything will be a hit, but I have had more hits than misses as far as when I make healthier recipes of things I've really liked.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree. Normally, I try to make some of the recipes and post them, and I've had hits up until I made some flapjacks the other day, and I guess that was my first out of 10 recipes I've made for the blog, and I was like, oh, but it's like you said, sometimes you have a miss, but most of the times you get a hit. So you have to try it.
Even if you try it one time, like I've tried things and I'm like, okay, well, I liked that, but I would like it more if it had this. So I always kind of use it as a guideline on how I can, how I can incorporate it into, what'll work.
Yeah. You just got to play with it. So now that you've hit your goal, do you still set a goal? Like, is there something that you progress to each time? And what's your best tip on goal setting?
This is actually the last year, I would say, I have really started kind of journaling each week about ahead of time what I want for the week. Right. And it's not just limited to like my, my weight or my fitness. I try to like, put my goals in and what I want. And I'm surprised how often just writing it down really does make me kind of follow through with it, whether it's like, for work or whether it's for, for my own goals. So, like if it's like that I wanted, if I have a photo shoot coming up and I really want to work a little harder on something, I'll say like, bump up the weight training or like, really work on definition or, and I try to do those things. I think that I also did a vision board that I got for Christmas. That was I was kind of having fun with that, where I write down like what my goals really are. I think as I'm getting older, I'm really trying to work on flexibility. I'm trying to work on bone density, and so like I've been really trying to be mindful, of that. I try to continue to work to strengthen myself and improve. I think it's easy to get, a lot of people get stuck in front, and I always say like if you're doing the same, even with weight training, if you're using the same weights and doing the same routine, you're not really like challenging yourself.
Right.
And if you're going to go into autopilot, that's not going to, keep you kind of progressing. And I mean, I've set different goals. Like I remember, before it was like I always had those flashbacks to gym class in elementary school, and I would just hang there on the pull-up bar. So like a big goal for me was to be able to do a few unassisted pull-ups. So that was a goal. Or like, like whether you want to bench press a certain amount or whether or not you want to bump your weights up to the next thing. I mean, so it's important to kind of keep the carrot out there, I guess, to keep you moving a little.
Right. And you find that journaling is a good tip to help you keep those goals going and helping you hit those goals.
Yeah, for some reason, food journaling never appealed to me. And I know that so many people say that that's a helpful thing to do. I even tried to do it now that now we're under quarantine, because I was finding I was eating a little bit more, and that's just not something I can do.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't work. That doesn't necessarily, but I did find writing down like, okay, this is where I want my weight to be. This is what I want my workouts to look like. I put my workouts on my to-do list every day. Not that I don't even think for a minute that I'm not going to do it, but there is something gratifying to checking it off that, that you've done it. And I feel better after it's done. So that's why, so yeah, I definitely think writing down goals and what you want to happen. And if food journaling helps, it's a great thing to be able to do. I just never, like, that wasn't something that I really enjoyed doing.
Right.
But I try to be mindful of what I was having.
Yeah. I think it's like we were saying earlier, everybody has to find what works for them. So some people, they feel like they have to food journal. I'm kind of like you. Sometimes I food journal when I know I've gotten off track, but as soon as I'm back on track, the food journal goes away, because I know where I've,
and we eat the same stuff every day, so it gets to be a boring.
I eat a lot of the same foods every day too.
Yeah.
But sometimes when they're asking my advice, I'll even say, because nobody wants to food journal. A lot of people don't like to do it. Take a picture and send it to me, and I'll tell you what's wrong with the plate. So that's my little because that's an easy thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would be one piece of advice you tell someone that's just starting out on their journey?
One piece of advice I would give would be to realize that there's not a finish line. There's no touchdown dance. There's no, it's just got to really be what kind of lifestyle you want for yourself, and not to beat yourself up. It is not a straight, trajectory. I feel like it's okay to have your journey maybe go a little bit this way and that way, and that's okay. That not to like let that be an excuse, or like that, okay, I'll start tomorrow, I'll start Monday, I'll start with the new year. But that I always say I took 100 first steps until the first step really clicked for me. And I think because I had tried so many times, it took a while for people to really think she means it this time, or like, this isn't going to go away. And that took a long time, because I had done so many different trends and so many different diets. And so like that, even if you have tried everything 1,000 times before, this time can be different, and you can tell yourself that.
Right. I totally agree on that. In so many more ways than just weight loss. People have seen you do something over and over again, where you've attempted to do something that's so important to you, but you keep falling off, or you keep joining the herd versus doing your own thing it's so important to you. It's kind of like crying wolf. People won't believe you until you step. So you're going to have to make that point that this is important enough to you that you're going to have to prove everybody wrong. That you are setting your standards this time. You're sticking to it.
Right. Absolutely. That was so important. And I always say, like, it's okay. It's okay to start again. It's like I start again every there are plenty of times when I'm just like, okay, let's back to the straight and narrow now, and then and that's okay to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think like, 'cause, you know, you mentioned like the crime wolf and the people that won't believe you. Like, I know you're like really good friends with your trainer now. So I think it's really cool that, you know, you can start these new habits that are better for you, help you feel better, and it can open you up to new friendships. It can open, I mean, like we wouldn't have met if like we both weren't passionate about health and fitness.
That's right. And I've gotten some great, I mean, really, truly, I feel like my weight loss journey I've met so many wonderful people, and it's given me so many interesting experiences I never would have had. And like, so I try to like take that as a, you know, as a gift. It's like, it's a fun thing, and to know that you inspire or encourage anybody else. And that's why I do what I do, because I remember how much I struggled. And I just, if telling my story encourages someone to start their own journey, then I feel like that's a great thing. That's a way to take a hurtful moment and channel it into something positive, you know?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, you have inspired many people.
Yes. So many.
We appreciate you taking this time to talk with us and, you know, share your story with all of our listeners, because we know you're going to inspire them too.
Yeah. If they want to connect with you, like they really connect and they love this podcast, where can they find you? Like, how is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, my blog is at FBJFIT.com, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter at FBJFIT, so they can reach out and check out anything there. And I'd love to connect or answer any questions, and I love connecting with you guys. So this has been a lot of fun for me.
Ditto. I'm just so thankful for, you know, anytime we can meet a fit friend. And then I know we've been talking for years now, so it's nice. And I'm so glad that you were able to share some tips with everybody that listens.
Yeah, it's nice to have that community, because like we were talking, sometimes your friends and your family just don't get it at the beginning.
Yeah,
so,
no.
And it gets discouraging. So if you can have that community, they can uplift you, they can support you until, you know, your family and friends get on board and they say, oh, okay, she's not going to have that donut. So
no, they will learn. Like I have to say, they will learn. Like people like really now and really know what it is I'll do, you know, what they can offer me. There are plenty of times like my kids will go to do something, they don't even ask if I want, because they know I don't.
Right.
Yeah. And people will learn. It's always nice when they ask, you know, like, oh, I know you don't drink this, or I know you don't eat that, you know, like what can we help with, or will you bring one healthy dish? Like, so it's nice.
That's always try to do. That's a great tip too, is anytime I am going somewhere, I do try to bring something that I can have, so that if I am something or only bad choices, it's a great thing. You know, like I'll bring my guacamole and vegetables, or I'll do you know, shrimp cocktail, just something fun that's delicious that I can bring, that I know that I can have if there's nothing else. That's a great. Yep.
Absolutely. So, well, thank you so much for taking the time again to jump on this podcast. I think it'll really help. And I think, because we've been talking about like habits and goals and priorities for the past couple of weeks. So I think that this will be a nice way for people to be able to see it in action, and like that we're all, like, it's just a work in progress. Like you said, like there's no finish line. This is just what we do each day. It's just a life.
Time.
We'll make sure to include all that contact information on our show notes, because I know we spit it out kind of fast and people might not have heard it, but we'll include all the ways to contact you in our show notes.
Yep. And they can, if you're listening, you can find them at kimandkalee.com, and this is episode 50. So you can just type in 50 and it'll pop right up and you can get in contact that way. Great. Right. Well, thanks. And we'll see you next week on the podcast.
Bye, guys.
Bye.